Today at the DNC's fall meeting, former senator from Nevada and majority leader Harry Reid returned from his retirement to criticize President Trump, blaming him for the ruining of the healthcare system within the United States, and also recent allegations that he showed disrespect toward the family of a sergeant murdered or killed during the Niger ambush. This reminded me of, what was that, 9 months ago, when Senator Boxer from California left office after declaring she would not seek re-election. And while she has been in the news twice, 3 times since then, she's largely remained out of public interest or eye. And a large reason for that is once a person leaves office, and they're actually concerned about issues, mind you, it opens them up with their presumed retirement pension to go and actually do things that potentially are better than what they did while they were in office. You look at McGovern after he was defeated in his senatorial bid. I love the Howland series. How are you? Yeah, and by the way, this isn't a relationship vlog, so you might not want to see this. After McGovern, the former Democratic nominee for president in 1972, was defeated in his re-election campaign in 1980, what became known as the Reagan Revolution, he dedicated himself to ending world hunger. Him and Senator Dole got together and started an organization of that nature. But that's something he tried to do while in office that later became or was more prosperous once out. With that being said, you look at Reid. What has he been up to? In a year of being out of office, what have we seen with him? What have we seen with any senator that leaves office that just goes back to their regular domain? A lot of times they do this thing of going on TV, talking about whoever currently is in office, and that's about it. And that's really a sad existence for a retirement, especially if you're physically able to go out and do things relating to restoring democracy or otherwise improving the lives of those around you. I don't have a problem with people criticizing Trump. I have a problem with people almost having this obsession with presenting it as if that's the only thing we have to worry about. When you have individuals such as these senators who at one point, I think it was every other senator was a millionaire. They have tons of money. And if they're really concerned about the middle class, if they're really concerned about all of these people that are somehow being forgotten by Trump as if they wouldn't have been forgotten by the Democrats, why don't they take the money that they own and go and use it to help out some of the people in their states and their districts that kept voting for them over and over again to become rich while they stayed in the middle class, those voters rather? Why don't they do that? I'm not saying it's their responsibility to, but there are practical ways to solve things. That little immigration nonsense with DACA, and you had Democrats come to, how dare the president do this? How dare the president do this? If they really were concerned about a large portion of those people who are here with that program being illegal and being students here, what they would do, instead of whining about it, they would go and say, okay, well, we have 6 months for Congress to do something. Congress is filled with Republicans. So we're going to go and meet with these students and do whatever it takes to get them legalized in that 6-month gap. Have you heard of a single? Yeah, they would have helped out, but they haven't. It's all a pyramid scheme of trying to get votes and appear to be sympathetic. I have. It's a lesser of two evils situation with these parties right now. I've been a Sanders guy for the last 2 years, but the point I'm making is if you have a person who is spending their time focusing on Trump, 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 it presents this narrative that if he weren't in office, all of these other problems could not be solved or would be solved. So if Clinton had won, oh yeah, man, I wouldn't even need to talk about healthcare. When in reality, we've been talking about healthcare for decades now. And you have to get out of this idea that these things cannot be fixed by the people who are in office without using their actual office. A lot of those career politicians, once they get through decades and decades of getting elected over and over again, they become millionaires. They become famous. They can champion causes. Yeah, still no improvements with healthcare. Well, again, you gotta understand, people like myself are for single payer, and that's where you only have a single price. It's paid for by the government, whatever. That you'll have a lot of conservatives who will tell you that that's socialism, whatever. But you're going to notice politicians are that on in both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party who have been in the White House for the last 20 years, along with a large chunk of those senators, are bought out by the pharmaceutical companies who benefit from increased prices on medicine and being able to tax you higher and higher, which single payer healthcare would prevent because everything would be one price. So you can't go to 5 different places and get 5 different prices. But again, this is what I'm talking about, because I don't want to turn this into, if you're taking money from big donors, I just automatically think you're evil. But it is what it is. We've seen for decades problems that don't get fixed, and while you're saying to yourself, okay, well maybe you can go and convince this person to have regular donors, keep in mind this is a man who, just like both of the Clintons, just like the Obamas, has millions of dollars to where they could go to whichever state they're in and pay for coverage for a very large chunk of people. And again, you'll say to yourself, well, they made it on their own. They shouldn't have to pay for other people. I'm not saying at all. I'm not saying that other people are entitled to their funds. But when you tell me that healthcare is messed up and that Congress is messed up, I'm going to point you to the one thing that's not messed up, which is how much you're willing to take out of your own pocket and assist with someone else. There's no Congress telling you can't use your own money to help out people that happen to live in your area. But none of them are doing that. And, they'd rather take the easy route of, let me come to this public appearance, let me whine about Trump, let me bemoan him and talk about him as though him being there is what's just destroyed all and created all these problems that have existed for decades prior to him even being in office. The reason I'm upset with this little comment this senator made, the former senator Reid, is because of the fact that it is much easier to flap your gums and give lip service about how bad this man is than to go out and actually have a solution that you can formulate. When you know that someone has millions of dollars that they refuse to spend on any of the people, he's in Nevada, so any of the people in Nevada that need coverage that he could pay for you to go to the hospital, he could pay for various things for many, many people with those millions of dollars he has. That's where the problem comes in. You can't tell me, okay, well, I have all this money that can benefit everyone that's in my local area, but I'm going to keep it to myself while also telling you what you should feel and how you should feel about whoever is in office, and besmirching them because they won't do what I myself won't do. So while he's upset about, maybe cash not being distributed to our healthcare system, he can distribute cash to the healthcare system because it's coming out of his pocket. He can use that kind of cash, which we know he has if you go and look up his net worth. But the problem with these remarks, everyone's just talking, but not. Yeah, well, it's not even taking action. It's the fact that there are steps you can take that bypass whatever complaints you have. If you whine about the federal government, not using its money to help out any of the homeless people in your local area, and you're a millionaire or a billionaire, you can take your own cash, start up your own business and pay them, give them some kind of work, maybe house them for a little bit. There are various things you can do without needing the assistance of someone else if you have the tools. He has the tools. All those Democrats that complained about the messed up Republican Congress and, their rescinding of DACA, all they have to do is say to these, various people who are affected by this, we have 6 months to legalize you, and that's what we're going to do. And then actually try and meet up with people and get them to come out of the shadows, which they're, in hiding because they're worried about being deported. But you can't create change if you don't take the first step, and they don't do that. They just, give some speeches and follow it up with nothing of any type of ambition. We're not even talking about running for president. We're talking about just making basic change. The kind of community drive that actually people who live there will say, yeah, he did this. I don't think either major party is concerned about people in general. There are politicians that I think actually care, but that's because many of the issues that they're in favor of are more benefiting toward people in general. So, for example, if I bring up Sanders, who's, I know the first person a lot of people will go to, I'll bring up him being in favor of free college. I'll bring up him being in favor of getting us out of all these wars that we don't need to be in, that kill hundreds of thousands of people every year. Gun control in an era where people were having more school shootings than ever before, and other types of shootings all across the country. Those are various things that I would become convinced of a politician actually being interested in. But as far as both parties, notice anytime we have these shootings, the Republicans oppose it and say NRA, NRA. They're bought out by the NRA and gun lobbyists, and that's what causes them to be against putting some kind of ban or implementation or just basic gun laws. That's why they're opposed to those. Nothing about the Second Amendment and patriotism or any of that nonsense, that lip service. With the Democrats, when they talk about, they're the same thing with other issues. You go to, their allegations of being in favor of LGBT rights, but then you go back to the 90s, they just ran a presidential candidate who, alongside her husband, voted for the Defense of Marriage Act, which was, outlawing same-sex marriage. And she only just recently, 4 years ago, came out in favor of that. We've had gay people within the U.S. for decades. And so I can say she only did that because she knew LGBT individuals were going to be a large block of voters that she wanted to acquire, and she couldn't leave them without appearing to be the better alternative to Trump. So again, I don't think either major party as a whole cares about society or regular people. You have the politician that comes along once or twice, like with Sanders, like with Warren from Massachusetts. You have Ellison, Gabbard. There are various ones here and there, but aside from those ones, I can't, most of these are there to get large funds to go to Washington, give a couple of speeches, be on TV every once in a while, and that's about it. Maybe write a book. So I just, I've seen that. Yeah, it's all for the sake of, I want to show you what I can become while pretending that I actually care. So, for example, if you have someone who genuinely wants to change their community, they will become involved before seeking office or before an election year. They'll go to town hall meetings. They'll go to, various events with people. They will promote some idea and start fundraisers and petitions. I guess the best example, maybe being a community organizer. That's ideally what I would think of. But the point is, there would be more reason to believe you care because you're not running for anything at that point. When I've never seen you before, or if you're in office and I never see you, like most of these representatives, you only come around every 4 years to run for re-election, or if I message you on your Senate site and you don't say anything, that's how I know you don't care. So, yeah, millions of bucks. But while the people who vote for them over and over again and get angry about anyone saying anything bad about them see no improvement in their lives. From the time they're born to the time they pass, they're living in the same neighborhoods with the same issues that if any of these politicians cared about their loyalty with their millions of dollars, they would go and assist them. But again, it goes back to this idea of you're going to have a return investment while not getting anything back. I'm going to ask for your vote. So when I get in office, I can just sit there, say, oh, look, I'm representative, senator, governor. And then after X amount of years passes and I'm out of office, I appear here once or twice, and that's about it. I never do anything to actually meet with local communities. I don't visit any of the schools. I don't go door to door. Nothing grassroots. It's just high profile appearance here, high profile appearance there. That's what all of these former senators and current senators do for the most part. Except for what, two? And I know a large hundreds of representatives do that thing. So this is meant to dissuade you from thinking any of that stuff about, oh, this person opposed Trump, so they care about me. They're for me. They're my friend. They're my ally. Yeah, they said something about the president of the opposing party like that's never been done before. That's someone that I should care about and vote for no matter what they do or what they don't do. Like ever show up in my district or local community except when they're running for re-election. I swear the amount of just blind loyalty people have for those in office is insane. I mean, you'll have people who will say, if you don't like this senator, you're sexist. If you don't like this senator or representative, you're against people from the South. And it's always goes back to that thing of, no, I'm against people both, or rather people in, representative senators from the North, from the West, from the South, from the East, from wherever that don't do anything but campaign, win the election, disappear except be on TV and on Capitol Hill, and then show back up in your community running for re-election. I have a problem with that. So I don't want to hear about how good Reed is for coming out of retirement and talking about somebody his whole party is against. I fail to be impressed.